Writing the West. Stories and poems by Rick Stever. Read by Michael Messner and friends. Two Trains. This is the story of a train wreck. There were two trains, one going east and the other going west, and they crashed on a blind curve. A railroad investigator was dispatched to the scene to determine the cause of the accident. He discovered only one eyewitness, a range rider. He interviewed the man, asking him to relate all the details of the collision.
Well, I happened to be up there on the ridge, herding a maverick, and I picked up back in the dry wash, and I was staying back and not pushing too terrible hard, poking along, mind my own business, not thinking much about nothing except getting back to the ranch before it got dark and wondering what the cook was going to be fixing up for dinner. Well, right about then, I sure could have used a cup of strong coffee.
If you don't mind, could you skip to the train wreck?
Interjected the investigator.
Well, sure. Anyway, I seen one train a-coming, you see, one way, and the other coming right at him. Well, I'll just bet you they was going 40 miles an hour or thereabouts. Looked to me as if they was fixing to meet on the blind curve at the foot of the ridge.
Did you try to warn them?
Nah.
You didn't even think about trying to stop them.
The cowboy claimed there hadn't been enough time.
Just exactly what did you think?
Well, I thought to myself, two trains on the same track? Now, that's a hell of a way to run a railroad.
Tebo. Tebo was a buckaroo who loved to tell a good story. One evening, after working cattle all day, the buckaroos were gathered around the fire, drinking coffee and smoking hand-rolled cigarettes. Tebo was sitting on his haunches talking to a cattle buyer from Portland. He asked the man if he had ever traveled in the Steens, a range in southeastern Oregon. The buyer said,
"Oh, just to the foothills, never actually into the mountains. From what I hear, they're awfully rugged."
Tebo confirmed it.
They are. If you ever get up there, be sure to see Kiger Gorge. It's a sight. Deep and sides straight up, straight down. One time I was riding up there for cattle. I climbed to the top. By then my horse was pretty well spent. While I was waiting for him to get his wind, I noticed this big boulder perched on the very edge. I could see it wouldn't take much to upset the delicate balance and send it over the rim. Like I said, I was just killing time anyway, so I ambled over and put my shoulder into the boulder. It didn't take much of a shove to get it started. It teetered there for a second and went over the edge, crashing and banging, picking up speed as it rolled downhill.
Tebo was quiet for a moment while he rolled and lit a cigarette. He knew that the cattle buyer was busy building a mental picture of that boulder bouncing higher and higher every time it hit. Finally, curiosity got the best of the cattle buyer, and he asked,
"Well, is that it?"
Just give me a minute.
He refilled the cattle buyer's cup before continuing.
The next spring I was back up in Kiger, and would you believe that my rock was still rolling back and forth from one side of the gorge to the other, but by then it was only about this big round.
He held out his hands about a foot apart. Clouds and snow. Advancing storm blows in. Curly Q clouds enliven blue sky, like outstretched fingers on a hand. All the vibrant colors of a rainbow float in absolute tranquility as darkness descends. By morning, a fresh dusting of snow cloaks mountains in dazzling white. Pay homage to the power of nature. Rumrunners. Under the cover of darkness, the Sea Island, a Canadian rumrunner, attempted to enter a small, secluded harbor a mile north of Tebo Bay. At the rock-rimmed entrance, she ran aground, and the crew hastily unloaded the cargo, stashing some of the illegal spirits in a nearby cave and burying more beneath the sand. Then they made a telephone call and were picked up by several automobiles. Coastal residents soon uncovered the cache: 51 drums of pure alcohol, 4 barrels of rum, and 275 cases of whiskey. A huge party was in full swing when the state police arrived. They made no arrests, but ordered those in attendance to carry the containers of alcohol, or what was left of them, up the trail and load it onto trucks. The confiscated cash was taken to the storeroom in the Toledo City Jail. Shortly after midnight, 2 trucks, a sedan, and a coupe drove into Toledo and parked beside the city jail. Several men hustled a portable cutting torch into position. They cut down the steel jail doors while men with machine guns stood guard. The liquor was loaded onto the trucks, and the gang nearly made their escape. But one of the trucks stalled, giving time for 2 officers to arrive. With guns drawn, they approached the convoy, and the rumrunners gave up without a fight. The men stood trial and were given lengthy prison sentences. But none ever served a single day, because the National Prohibition Act was repealed on December 5th, 1933. Buffalo Wall. Buffalo stampedes struck fear into the hearts of the early-day pioneers. A fellow by the name of Crabtree gave a personal account of living through a buffalo stampede. He told how a line of dust stretching from horizon to horizon was the first detectable sign of a buffalo stampede. How, from so many hooves striking the earth, there came the sound of distant rolling thunder. There was no hope of avoiding the stampede. All they could do was circle the wagons and take actions to try to split the herd. Crabtree claimed,
"Well, I had the fastest horse in camp. I led the charge, firing our guns in the air, but to no avail. And when the herd threatened to overrun me, I turned around and ran with it. Now, to me, it seemed like trying to outrun a flood. My horse went down. He probably hit a gopher hole. I got knocked off, was dazed for a second, looked up and saw the buffaloes on top of me. And I managed to crawl over against my horse. Well, a couple of buffalo went around me. One leaped over the top and the next one hung up. And after that, it was like dominoes. Bodies piled up around and all over me, and I didn't move, and I was safe enough where I was. Though the herd swept past, the thunder was going away, and a choking dust was beginning to settle, when I was finally able to squirm my way from beneath the mass of dead and dying."
Crabtree fully expected the wagons to have been obliterated by the stampede. But to his complete and utter amazement, they were safe, because the buffalo wall had split the herd on either side of the wagon circle. You've been listening to Writing the West. The stories and poetry in this podcast are by Rick Stieber and appear in books by him. Log on to www.rickstieberauthor.com to find out more. This program was produced by Michael Messner by permission of the author. Special thanks to Michael Tucker and Art Shingler. Thank you for listening.